It's weird.
Yeah.
Are you being creepy?
I'm not being creepy.
There you are. What are you doing?
Podcasting.
Why are you being creepy on the podcast?
Close the door, please.
All
Love
right,
you.
and this is how we start the show. Welcome to Under the Hoodies, episode 2. I am Bill Kegel. That is Tony DeNicola. We are presented by BacksportsPage.com. And today's topic, COVID in the NFL, is a big one. Matt Patricia's burner account, Bill Belichick's coaching tree, and our picks, and a couple rants at the end of the show. First topic, though, biggest topic in the world right now, the novel coronavirus. Not so novel anymore, considering that MFR has been here for a year. So, anyway, where do you want to start?
I guess we'll talk with
you.
the
Big to small or small to big? How do you want to go?
Let's just talk the absurdity of the Baltimore Ravens, and are they ever going to get this game in?
All right, yeah. So let's start there. So Baltimore Ravens had 2 more people test positive today, but they announced that everything's fine. So everything's fine. Game's going to happen as scheduled, which is tomorrow at 3:40 our time on the East Coast, which is very odd considering that the people in the West Coast would be watching it at, noon?
Take a very long lunch break.
Very long, yeah, like a 3-hour lunch break. So, you know what's funny, though? If that was the Bills game and it was on at noon, we would close. 1,000,000% we would close. So,
Buffalo would be hammered at 9 a.m.
Right. So it's important to note that where this started. So this outbreak started in Baltimore. It started with who? A trainer, right? Strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah. Who apparently wasn't wearing a mask or distancing, or didn't he disconnect his contact tracer or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. So the Baltimore Ravens are probably going to fire that guy. If not, I'm assuming he'll be suspended for quite a while. They are going to cost him. Yeah. They're going to cost the organization a couple $100,000, maybe a late round draft pick, and their star quarterback, the most important player in their franchise, maybe the most important player since Ray Lewis, is positive with the disease. And not heard much about his symptoms or anything, but I'm curious if you have.
No, that's a weird thing too. We never hear they're positive, and then we hear pretty much nothing after the fact.
Right, which is weird. Yeah. So I just found that whole thing to be fascinating. But you were following this in real time yesterday. So basically, what are some of the gems from your hot Twitter?
Yeah, so I'm at the gym just trying to work out, and then Adam Schefter pops up on my phone with a tweet. Ravens Steelers now scheduled to kick off at 3:40 on Wednesday. I'm like, okay, weird, makes no sense. I'm like, whatever. And then it just keeps coming fast and furious. So the next one, next Monday Night Football game times: Washington Steelers at 5, Cowboys Ravens at 5, Bills 49ers at 8. Bills Niners was the original Monday night game.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, cool, triple header of Monday Night Football. This is awesome. And then basically Schefter, like 10 minutes later, not so fast, Cowboys Ravens now might kick off Tuesday 8 o'clock. I'm just like, what's happening? Are we just like flying by the seat of our pants? And then after the fact, another tweet comes in. The whole reason that game between the Ravens and the Steelers is on Wednesday at 3:40 in the afternoon now is because NBC did not want to preempt the Rockefeller tree lighting, which is the most 2020 thing I've ever heard. Like the NFL got kicked to the side by a freaking tree, which, by the way, came from upstate New York. I don't know if you knew that.
The tree did?
Yeah, it came from, I want to say Oneonta, and it got ripped to shreds online because it looked like half of it just looked like a Charlie Brown tree, which I guess when they put it on a truck and transport it, all the branches get bent back and it's got to sit upright, and then everything kind of fluffs out and looks a little better. But this is just... It's amazing the lengths the NFL will go to just not have a Week 18 and to just keep pushing everything back. Like, no, we'll keep recycling the schedule. We'll keep moving things around. It's fine. It's fine. Meanwhile, Denver goes out and plays with no quarterbacks.
So just a quick sidebar about that. That quarterback is the best example of a regular person who is an absurd athlete, but a regular person playing in the NFL. What was he? 1 for 9, 1 completion, 13 yards, and 2 interceptions. That's kind of like the best athlete in your area going to the NFL and getting a shot at quarterback on very minimal notice. That gives you an idea of how freaking good these pro athletes are.
Yeah, so, can we shut down the whole talk of high school gym hero in the 300 section. Like, oh man, if coach started me a couple more times, I could have made it to the league. You know, you couldn't.
Yeah, old Al Bundy had asses, dude. It's so ridiculous. So
it's crazy too. So that guy, I'm slipping on his name, but yes. So he has a connection to Syracuse in a weird way. So the season finale of last season, he was the wide receiver for Wake Forest that Trill Williams, our DB, came up and stripped the ball and pick sixed him in overtime to end the season.
Oh, interesting.
And we basically cost Wake Forest a shot at, I think it was either the Orange or the Fiesta Bowl. I think it was the Orange Bowl.
Wow.
If they win that game, they probably get a New Year's Six game, being the Orange Bowl. We
Interesting.
Yeah.
So real quick, I wanted to touch on the 49ers situation, which is also kind of wild. So basically the county that the stadium is in, Santa Clara, has halted all sports in the entire county because they have one of the worst surges in the country right now. So the San Francisco is now playing their games in Arizona. They'll be playing the Monday night game against the Bills in Arizona. And I forget the game after that they're playing. But yeah, their next two games, their next home games in air quotes, are in Arizona, which is freaking odd. This whole year can go straight to hell, honestly. I mean, if this isn't already hell. But
yeah, and it's interesting too how it just like some teams get so affected by it, like the Steelers and San Fran, and then others can just skate free. And it just goes to show you that the NFL does not give a damn about competitive balance. They care about getting these games in, getting TV revenue, and getting to the playoffs. Like, let's not fool ourselves here. It's not morality. It's about making that money.
Yeah, so what are they going to do in the playoffs? Say, like, Patrick Mahomes gets it. What do they do in the playoffs at that point?
They'll probably bend the rules somehow. They'll be like, oh, the CDC says now that there's only 7 days of we'll push the Super Bowl back a week. Like, yeah, can you imagine right before the
biggest game? They wouldn't even tell me as. They'd be like, yeah, tell me as a negative, and then just let them go out there. I mean, honestly, I think that's what they'll do before they let a marquee player miss a playoff game, and possibly keep the Patrick Mahomes and the Aaron Rodgers and the Russell Wilsons out of the playoffs. I just think it's interesting, like that. This is all well and good for the regular season, and there's a lot of movement. But how the hell are they going to do that? Plus, with the added extra playoff team in each conference, that's also just a bigger pool of people that could get COVID. So.
Well, we just have one extra team now. There's 7 in each conference. I thought I'd heard that if they go to week 18, they make it 8 from each conference.
Yeah, that's what they're going to say. So that gives the Giants a better chance of making the playoffs, which is awesome for me. But
no, the only chance you guys have is win the division. Let's be real here. You're not getting a wild card berth.
What? That's crazy.
We don't need 2 garbage teams from the East getting in.
They shouldn't let any of the teams in there, honestly, but I'm still pumped we're in first place. So
you should be. You guys look good. I'll take my top 10 draft pick.
Yeah. We missed out on Chase Young last year, so that was cool. So the team that's been oddly affected by this the most is Pittsburgh, who's done everything correct, which is funny because
it's also
10-0. Has been getting, as we used to say in the military, blue falconed by COVID. They've had no cases of it, and they're the team that got affected by Tennessee, and now they're getting affected by Baltimore. And the thing that I think is interesting that the NFL, I think this is their competitive balance thing that you mentioned, is like a way of the NFL punishing the teams that get it, because it's kind of like, well, your quarterbacks weren't following protocol, so go start a guy that barely knows how to throw a football, that played a little quarterback in college, and then let me know how that goes against the Saints, who's probably the best team in the NFC. But I do think it's the NFL's way of punishing the teams a little bit and setting an example, is just by like, you know what, you're playing and, you're taking this loss because you guys effed up, not us. So this is a you problem, not an us problem.
It's crazy, too, with that game, because I was listening to Pat McAfee, and he mentioned it, how the over-under was 36, and he took the over, and it still didn't hit. Like, for an NFL game to not hit. Like, especially when one of those teams is the Saints.
Right. Right. And it's funny because I think a lot of people in fantasy pick that guy up thinking, oh, he's a quarterback. He'll get like 15 cheap points. And
he had a quarterback since 2017 at Wake Forest.
Right.
A whole different ballgame.
He had negative 2.97 points, which is hysterical.
God, running for his life.
But it's just kind of interesting, man. If you look at it, like the Titans, the Titans sort of screwed the Bills because the Bills, two of their early losses were against the Chiefs and the Titans, and the Bills had no clue until like 48 hours before what team that they were preparing for. And unfortunately for them, they had to prepare for 2 of the 4 best teams in the AFC. So it's kind of unfair this is the ripple effect of what happens to teams that following protocols like Pittsburgh. If Pittsburgh again, like I said earlier, is a victim of COVID, but the Bills really so far have been screwed the most by it because they have had no cases. They've been really responsible with their protocols, and yet they got screwed because they lost to the Titans and lost to Kansas City. Now, there's obviously a possibility they could have lost to both those teams. I do think that they're a better team than the Titans. They're not a better team than Kansas City, but they do match up really well with Kansas City. And I think given a full week to prepare for them, I think the Bills probably could have given Kansas City a little bit more of a game, if nothing else. So I do think that that's sort of where you get into the slippery slope aspect of everything that's happening.
Yeah, and I want to see too, like for my Cowboys, their next game is against the Ravens now for next Tuesday night. So they played on Thanksgiving. They'll now have 12 days off between games, just basically like an extra bye. Like, will that be better for them or worse? Like, they know they're playing the Ravens. They know who to prepare for. It's not like the Bills situation where they're preparing for two teams. But just Can that be an advantage or a disadvantage?
Exactly. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes as far as COVID, and especially when we get to the playoffs. And then I think once they get deeper into the playoffs, I think it'll be a little easier because I think there's only a week between the AFC Championship and the Super Bowl this year, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to double check that. But what I think what they can do is somebody gets COVID in the week leading up to the Super Bowl, they can actually kick the Super Bowl back a week, which is kind of interesting in and of itself because there's not going to be a lot of fans there, and I think there's going to be a lot of availability of hotel rooms because of people not traveling as much, especially in Tampa.
With the hotels you mentioned, it's not just that, the availability. It's the NFL booked it out for a month. There's a report that came out that they booked those hotels for a month straight just in case stuff did get pushed back.
Right.
So you're the NFL. People are going to watch no matter what. If you got to push stuff back, push it back. Like, everyone's still going to watch. Like, it doesn't matter at this point.
And the NFL is still going to cash in checks. And I'm curious how the salary cap works for all this, too, because there's talking about, like, they're going to spread the losses over the next, 4 or 5 years, as opposed to just having 1 year where the salary cap drops from, 175 to 125.
Well, yeah, because there'd be massive cuts if they just cut 40, 50 million from the cap next year. Like, could you imagine, you're going to have so many talented veterans on the free market.
Right, and they're going to be taking discounts, which is kind of not fair to them, considering that their market value is established by what teams are willing to pay them. And it's kind of unfair that, I would assume the players union have a problem with it, but I think take an above average guy, I don't know, shoot an above average guy. So I'll just use the Giant for Lorenzo Carter, right? Say somebody like that is coming up on a deal, right? And he's an average but has above average ability and is still sort of progressing or whatever. So he's at the end of his rookie deal. In a normal year, he would sign probably a 3-year, whatever, $24 million deal. Well, now that isn't going to exist because the middle class of the NFL is going to be shrank. It's going to be guys like the aforementioned Kendall Hinton, at the bottom in the middle of the roster. And then it's going to be like the Patrick Mahomes guys you just are uncuttable at the top of the roster. Yeah. But it does make me wonder about the running back position and how that's affected because people don't want to pay running backs. And Saquon Barkley's coming up. Who else is coming up? There's a couple other guys coming up on
Kamara signed already?
Who?
Alvin Kamara.
Kamara did, at the beginning of the year. Him and Dalvin Cook signed right around the same time.
But have we not learned? Don't pay running backs. I said it with my Cowboys with Zeke. Look at Christian McCaffrey. Look at Todd Gurley. None of these deals have worked. None. Zero.
See, I think with a guy I think with a couple guys you have to pay them. I think Derrick Henry, right? Derrick Henry's probably the MVP.
He might be the exceptional role. That offense,
and I think Kamara is too because the whole offense is based around Kamara. At least when Drew Brees is in, which he will be back in. But same with Dalvin Cook in Minnesota. I mean, I think certain guys you have to pay, and I think Barkley, unfortunately for the Giants, is one of those guys you're going to have to pay also because once the Giants actually establish something that resembles an offense, I do think Saquon Barkley is going to be the reason the Giants win more games than they would without him.
With Derrick Henry too, though, and I'm going to look it up now. His contract wasn't that outrageous.
It really wasn't. I think he signed
it last 4 years, $50 million. $25.5 million guaranteed.
Right.
Compared to what Zeke and Gurley got paid, that's nothing.
Right. And I think Kamara and Cook are worth it. The only thing that worries me about a Dalvin Cook is is his injuries. He's always sort of banged up. Whereas outside of last year, Alvin Kamara, who played most of the season anyway, doesn't really miss a lot of games. Same with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry doesn't miss a lot of games. And Saquon Barkley before it's kind of it's an ACL, you're a running back. I mean, you can call that kind of in a family of a freak injury. I mean, that he doesn't really get hurt either. But guys like Dalvin Cook, he's just good to miss 4 games a year.
Derrick Henry doesn't miss a lot of games because he injures everyone else.
Right, but I do wonder if he's. I do wonder if he's like another DeMarco Murray candidate. Maybe not quite the cliff he fell off of, or Larry Johnson back in the Chiefs back in the day. But I do wonder if Derrick Henry's one of those guys where it's just the middle of next year and he just can't move. That's my thing with. I've always worried about that with Derrick Henry. But anyway, anything left on the COVID topic, or do you want to move on to Matt?
No, I think we're all COVIDed out at this point.
Okay, so this is my favorite topic of the day. Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn for the Detroit Lions were fired. And there is a interesting fella on Twitter, Eddie P Lions fan, at Eddie P Lions fan in his handle. So this guy, so here's the looking at Eddie P's account, the person behind it makes a compelling case. He did not tweet once during any of the games on which Patricia coached the season, which is odd for such a passionate fan. The tweets were all on September 3rd and September 4th, and then tonight, 2 days after Patricia was let go. So 21 of Eddie P's 30 tweets feature the words Coach Patricia. Do you ever call Jason Garrett or Mike McCarthy Coach Garrett or Coach Patricia? I've never called Coach Coughlin, Coach Judge, all the other 85 coaches the Giants have had, right? No one calls the coach of their team coach. Even Bills fans who love McDermott don't call him Coach McDermott. They call him McDermott or McD, or they combine Bean and McDermott and call him McBean. Whatever. There's always some kind of nickname or just the last name, right? So somebody tweeted, I hope he does so he can see all of Twitter clowning him. He's a clown. Eddie P, Lions fan, Coach Patricia did what he could with the roster Quinn gave him. Bob Quinn was the problem.
Oh, God.
Somebody wrote, I want Stafford back. Eddie P responds, Lions will be better off moving on. Stanford, he spelled his name wrong, is uncoachable. Slade didn't have the work ethic to succeed under Coach Patricia. Darius Slade didn't have the work ethic to succeed under Coach Patricia. Darius Slade, who's one of the best cornerbacks in the league, right? Didn't have the work ethic. All of a sudden, the guy gets with Patricia, and he's just not a good worker? Or are you an asshole? So,
this just makes sense because all the reports out of Detroit were that Matt Patricia was extremely unliked while he was there. He may as well become even more unliked on his way out.
But how is he going to get a job? Like, who's going to hire that guy to do anything?
Oh, yeah, no, it's idiotic.
Right.
He's going to go crawling back to New England and be like a quality control guy or something.
Right, exactly. So there's a couple. So this is kind of what you and I wanted to talk about. And it's the Bill Belichick coaching tree. Okay, so take Brian Flores and Joe Judge, who have a really high Q rating or maybe trending in the right direction right now. Who is the best Bill Belichick coaching disciple?
Oof.
I think it's Bill O'Brien. I mean, which
God.
in and of itself is kind of sad, right? Because Bill O'Brien, terrible GM and kind of a dick himself. But that's
longevity.
Longevity, and they won the division. I think 5 of the 6 years he was there, and the one year they didn't win it, I think it was the year that Deshaun Watson was a rookie and tore his ACL after like 6.5 games.
He wasn't a bad coach. He was just a god awful GM.
He's a terrible GM.
Belichick has been the only one where you can just give all the power to, because Belichick, just the way his brain works, he can compartmentalize it.
But even Bill Belichick's not really that good of a general manager as far as like scouting college players. Like, they're kind of bad in the draft. I mean, they're
the most out of the least and just underpays people and just makes it work.
Their player personnel department is freaking outstanding because they take guys like Diamond in the Rough guys, and then they'll make them players. I mean, Barkevius Mingo, I think, has been playing special teams for them for like 4 years. He was a first-round bust, but they found a spot for him. I think they take these like uber-talented guys that are underachievers and just sort of plug them in the right spot. Jamie Collins, outside of New England's terrible.
Yeah, and it usually works too. The only problem was that they always had Brady to cover up those flaws. They tried it with Cam now, and it's just not working. Like,
no, it's not. Cam was pretty bad.
I don't know if he's hurt or just doesn't understand the offense or what the hell's happening.
I just think it's sort of new. He didn't have a training camp. I mean, I do wonder how much of Cam's ability is just gone anyway.
Good point.
A lot
of that can be said with Brady too, with Tampa, where it's like the chemistry is just not there. Like Aaron Rodgers talks about it, where they're not even allowed to eat lunch with each other now. Like, how are you supposed to build camaraderie with new receivers and tight ends when you can't even like hang out with a guy or talk to him, get to know him.
Right, exactly.
And part of why Brady was doing this so much in the offseason, getting busted at the parks, throwing to his wide receivers during the pandemic.
I know. And I actually agree that I think this is just such a bizarre year. And I think like at the beginning of the year, what everybody said was kind of true, is especially early on, that the teams that have continuity with coaching and quarterbacks and a lot of the same players are showing to be the most successful this year. I mean, just not to keep beating the Bills, but like, I mean, look at the Bills this year. They're 8-3. They should be 9-2. I mean, they lost the game on a Hail Mary to the most absurd receiver in the league. But I mean, they, even at 8-3, they brought back, I think, their entire offensive line. I think they cut a guy early on in the season. I think they cut Quentin Spain early on. But I mean, they have excellent roster continuity this year, going from last year to this year. Same with the Saints. Same with the Titans, same with a lot of the, the top teams in the league. And I think like you can kind of look at that with Brady and Arians, and they keep throwing each other under the bus, which is crazy. That Bruce Arians keeps doing that. He's just blatantly calling. You see what he said today? He said Tom Brady was calling the plays. Tom Brady calls the plays now. I'm like, then why is Byron Leftwich getting a check?
Yeah.
Why not just? I mean, I'm a Byron Leftwich guy. I kind of like the fact that, like, I remember that guy at Marshall. Now he's an offensive coordinator. But at the same time, why is he getting a check? I don't understand. If Brady's doing his job, then why the hell is?
I do love Bruce Arians though, because he does not give an F, man. He will say anything about anyone. Like, I kind of admire it in a way.
Yeah, I do too, and I do like the fact that he's not starstruck by Brady, which I think a lot of at least younger coaches would. But Arians has been in the league for so long that it's just kind of like, it's just a guy, just another guy. But
if you're Tampa, because I think they're both on 2-year deals, which one has to go? Which one
I think you get rid of Arians. I think you bring in a guy that Brady is more comfortable with. You give him a little bit of an offseason. I think that team's an absolute juggernaut. If Brady is this Brady of this year, because as far as his skills diminishing, and they really haven't that much. Like, you're asking him to do something he's not used to doing. But I mean, I still his numbers are really, he has 28 touchdowns and 11 picks, and he's got like a 66% completion percentage. He's actually statistically been really good this year, and I think it's just an odd fit. Like,
I think part of the problem too is that we see him just not get it done on prime time. That's where all the eyeballs are on him. Like, they got smashed by the Saints, they got beat by KC. Like, the more eyeballs on you, the more that sticks with people. The first Saints game was it wasn't prime time, but it was a late afternoon game on Fox.
It might have been this Fox game of the week, right? It could have been the main Fox game. So not necessarily prime time, but a game that most people watch. I'm sure a lot of people were excited to watch that game.
Yeah, and more eyeballs, perception becomes reality. More people see that. That's just what sticks in their head. But then when they play at 1:00 the next week and they smash some poor team, like, nobody cares. Nobody talks about it.
Right, exactly. So, but yeah, I was kind of litigating the coaches of the Belichick tree. I mean, Josh McDaniels probably would have been good. He was okay his first year in Denver, and then I don't know what the hell happened. He was apparently like a complete pain in the ass in the building. Charlie Weiss was a disaster. Romeo Cornell,
Charlie Weiss got paid though. I mean,
Charlie Weiss got a lot of money, yeah. So I mean,
Notre Dame paid him.
Right. I mean,
Romeo Cornell.
But Romeo Cornell, who I would love to be my grandfather, I love that guy's voice. Romeo Cornell seems like the best human being to hang out with, because he seems so soft spoken. He seems like the nicest dude on the planet. But and then Bill O'Brien, probably the least the candidate at the very bottom of the list of the person I would least want to hang out with. But then I mean, who are the others?
What about well, I don't know if this is a technicality or not, but Mike Vrabel, did he coach under Belichick? Because he played.
No, he didn't. He was a player. I think I know he was a defensive coordinator for the Texans for a little while, so he worked under Bill O'Brien. But I think you can still call him part of the Belichick tree. I mean, but as
he played for him for so many years, you figure he'd pick some stuff up.
But look at like Flores. Flores wasn't even a defensive coordinator. I don't think he was ever given that designation, right? I don't think he was ever given an official defensive title, even though he was calling defense last year. And then Joe Judge was a special teams coordinator, and they both look to be like two of kind of the better, new hired young coaches. And maybe the Belichick tree is starting to change a little bit. But Mike Lombardi, who's been with Bill Belichick on and off since 1991, basically said that the problem with the guys on the Bill Belichick tree is they want to go in there and imitate Bill, but they don't know how to build like Bill. They don't know. They're not their own person like Bill is. Everybody called Bill Belichick a Bill Parcells clone, which he's not. He's actually very different. But he was saying that these guys aren't going in there and they're not being themselves. They're being a version of what they think Bill Belichick is, and that's not how you win, because you can't get the same respect from players as a guy that coached for Bill Belichick as Bill Belichick does, because Bill Belichick's the one with the track record of the 20+ year history of making players legends, right?
Yeah.
Whereas what players Matt Patricia made a legend?
They're like the cheap knockoff. It's like Christmas time's around the corner, and like you want to get the Hess truck. The Hess truck's back and it's better than ever. And you go to like a Speedway or something, you get like the cheap knockoff. It's like red. It's not even green. And you're like,
so basically what you're saying, Bill Belichick is Jay-Z and Beyonce, and the rest of these guys are Ja Rule and Ashanti.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, they're the great value version of Belichick.
Yeah, just the cheap knockoff.
Yeah,
the 99-cent version.
The 99-cent version. So yeah, man, I just think that's the problem, and I think when I not to plug another podcast or take someone else's idea, but Mike Lombardi said, he was like, they don't go in and be themselves, and maybe that's what Brian Flores and Joe Judge are doing. I mean, Joe Judge has already fired somebody that he just didn't like for whatever reason, and then Brian Flores doesn't seem to take a lot of nonsense from anybody either. Both guys I'm a huge fan of, actually.
Do you think Colombo actually punched him, like some people reported?
No, they said that wasn't true. I think Jordan Renown reported, who's like probably the most plugged-in Giants reporter.
The guy's like 6'8", 330. He would kill Joe Judge.
Joe Judge is not small, but yeah, I mean,
no, though it's an NFL offensive lineman, like who played a few years ago. Like it's not. Right. He'd smash him to death.
That's true. I mean,
I'm not taking a fight with an offensive lineman in the NFL. No way, no how.
All right, so basically we said that Bill O'Brien as of right now is the best, but we can probably agree that Brian Flores and Joe Judge in some order will eventually be better than Bill O'Brien, and Matt Patricia was a complete and utter dickhead.
From the word go, like how did they fire Caldwell? I still don't understand.
Say that again.
How did Detroit fire Caldwell? I just still don't. It still boggles my mind.
That didn't make any sense to me because I thought they were really good. I honestly thought that that they were.
Does he have the best overall record in Detroit history? Like, he had a winning record.
Well, I think it was crazy that they got rid of Oh God, the dude's name just escaped me. He's the defensive coordinator for the Eagles.
Oh Jesus, yeah, the peppered hair. I can't think of his goddamn name either.
Yeah, when he was defensive coordinator of the Bills, I actually ran into him in an elevator, and I just kept looking at it. It was like, God, he's got a big head. It's the biggest head I've ever seen.
Jim Schwartz, yeah.
Jim Schwartz. Jesus, we suck, dude. How do we not remember that guy? But yeah, Jim Schwartz I thought was a really good head coach. The Giants almost hired him, actually, before they hired McAdoo.
Yeah, I always thought he was a good coach.
Yeah. Oh, hey, here's another thing I heard. So Ben McAdoo, former Giants head coach, he went from like the creepiest hairstyle to like Gordon Gekko, which made him even somehow creepier than he did before with Art. But so here's a funny story about how the New York Giants franchise is wired, and hopefully Joe Judge is changing this. So Ben McAdoo went out and worked out Patrick Mahomes, an unauthorized workout. He paid for the flight out of his own pocket, and he really wanted to work out Patrick Mahomes. So he works out Patrick Mahomes. He comes back to the Giants raving. He was like, "This guy is amazing. We need to draft him. I think we can get him. I think if we trade up, we can get him." And this was from a guy that was in the room that said that the Giants scouting department laughed at him about wanting to draft Patrick Mahomes. You know who the Giants scouting department and player personnel department was obsessed with in that draft?
At quarterback?
Not Deshaun Watson, not Patrick Mahomes, not
Don't tell me Mitch.
Davis Webb, who they ended up drafting.
Oh, yeah.
I heard that story, and I wanted to take a folding chair to my head like The Rock did Mankind, and I literally just wanted to smash my head over and over until I forgot that I heard that.
Hey, you could be worse. You could be Chicago, who traded up for Mitch Trubisky. You passed up on Mahomes, you passed up on Watson, you traded up for MV Mitch.
Listen, Mitch Trubisky was a significant upgrade over Davis Webb, who is like the Bills practice squad player, like quarterback right now. I mean, it just killed me inside to know that we could have had Patrick Mahomes, and the Giants brass was like, you know what? I really like this guy, Davis Webb, who is the slowest quarterback. Eli would run like literal circles around that guy. So, yeah. Anyway, I may need a minute after saying that. So let's get into our picks. So we're going to talk about each game that we're picking. The 3 games I went with is Raiders at Jets, Bills at Niners, and Rams at Arizona. My first game is I'm saying take the Raiders and the points. Raiders by 7.5 over the Jets. This is a Raiders coming off of a loss, a spanking, and I think that the Raiders are a good team. I think they're a lower level playoff team, and I think they're going to take out all their anger and frustration on the Jets, who have not fired Adam Gase because they don't want to run the risk of winning a game and getting themselves out of the Trevor Lawrence thing. So I think that they're just trying to lose by 20 plus points to ensure their loss.
Poor Trevor.
So I say take the Raiders 7.5.
I'll go head to head with you on that. I'll take the Jets.
Nice. Okay.
The value's not there, man. That hook 7.5. Oh, it's got.
I know. I hate when they do that because it's like they got to win by more than a touchdown, obviously. But yeah. I think the Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to win like 31-10.
You know what though? This is the game that the Jets can win. Like I still don't think they're going to go winless. I think they're just going to trip into a victory, and I think it'll be against the Raiders. They did it last year against the Raiders.
Yeah, they did, but
Raiders were on their way to the playoffs, and they lost like 5 of their last 6, and it started with the Jets.
Yeah, but if you remember, the Jets finished the season like 6-2 or something last year. They finished the season really strong. But I think, my thing with the Jets is like I think that they're just actively losing. Like the players aren't. I think the players are playing really hard. I actually gained a lot of respect for the Jets players after the Patriots game because they were busting their ass to win that game.
Yeah, I'm hoping Flacco starts, not Darnold.
Right,
Flacco's
I know.
crazy.
Darnold had one of the sickest plays in that game ever when he did the fake slide. I was like, holy shit, Darnold can play, I think. Imagine Darnold on like a good team. I think that guy is serviceable or better. Like I think that guy is going to be a good player for the Indianapolis Colts or the Pittsburgh Steelers in a year or two.
The Jets have ruined him. The culture ruins him completely. Like just get him the hell out of there.
Oh, listen, you and I work for a company together that will ruin you too. So we know about a thing or two about bad cultures. So so yeah, we'll leave it at that.
It's your second game.
Bills.
Or do you want to go back and forth with it?
Okay, yeah. So Bills and Niners. So I have the Bills 2.5. They got to win by a field goal. They're playing at essentially a neutral stadium. I think that the Bills defense has been playing a lot better, as evidenced by the last couple of games. They actually
think they want to exercise their demons too in Arizona.
Yeah, maybe they just stay away from that part of the end zone that we find. But like,
and I swear to God, too, if the Bills give up one more goddamn Hail Mary, like, what are we doing? Like, come on, guys, just knock the ball down.
I can see Deebo Samuel doing that to them. Like, just the same.
At the very least, just like rip the guy's head off. Take the penalty at that point. Like, do something.
I agree. I mean, just get it at the 1 or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the Bills defense did a pretty good job against. They did a pretty good job against Kyler Murray, who was really hot at that point. They did a good job against Russell Wilson, and I think they actually did a pretty good job against Justin Herbert, who we said last week was the best rookie quarterback of all time. They held him to 1 touchdown, and they forced him to throw like 56 times. Now that's probably more on Anthony Lynn than it is Justin Herbert, but at the same time, the Bills' defenses looked a lot better. So I'm saying take the Bills and the points. I think the Bills win 28-24.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that. The Bills should win this game, and -2.5 is a very good number. But
it's just a field goal. Yeah, it's a good number.
Yeah. I'm wary of San Fran because after they beat the Rams last week. Shanahan's doing an amazing job with that team. They lost like half their roster to injury, and somehow they still make it work and they're competitive. They're still fighting for a playoff spot. It doesn't make any sense to me.
So old Billy hot takes a couple weeks ago into the season. My buddy who is a big Shanahan fan, he's a Broncos fan, so he loves Mike Shanahan. Also has been banging the Kyle Shanahan drum for like 8 years. And I was like, I get it. I'm not saying that Kyle Shanahan isn't a phenomenal coach. What I'm saying is that I think we're anointing him a little too early. And I think in a season like last year, a lot of people would say that's his best season, but I would say so far in the NFL, this has been his best season. He's had a lot of turmoil, a lot of turnover on his roster, especially with quarterback, running backs. I mean, all his running backs have been hurt at one point this year. And I think like they didn't have Deebo Samuel for a lot of this year, and they're actually in playoff contention in the very, very difficult NFC West. I think this has been a marvelous coaching job by him. So, and I think what they did to the Rams who completely shut down, Russell Wilson, and their defense has been playing kind of outside of its skull recently. I think the Niners piecing together a win against the Rams and winning on a last-second field goal was really, really impressive. I think that's the best coaching job I've seen in a while by a guy. I will say that I like San Francisco a lot. I just think the Bills, talent-wise, and their defense has been playing a lot better as the season goes on. That's why I'm taking Buffalo.
No, yeah, and I agree. I take Buffalo in that one.
So next one I have is Rams at Arizona. So I'm going against my better judgment here. I'm actually taking the favorite, which is the Rams. They're favored by 3, at least on my list. I think you might have had different numbers than I did. But
No, I
got
got
the
3
Rams
as well.
Okay, the Rams by 3. So I could see this being a push, but I just think that with Cliff Kingsbury is not a good coach, right? Not yet, anyway. He's learning on the job basically, and I think Sean McVay is going to put on a clinic. The only person that has a kryptonite against Sean McVay is Kyle Shanahan, right? Sean McVay has figured out every other defense, right? And Arizona's defense is not that good. It's getting a little better. Could definitely use Chandler Jones this year, but I think the Rams are going to have a bounce back game against Arizona's kind of weak defense. And I think the offense, how well the Rams have been playing, I just don't see. I see Jalen Ramsey bottling up DeAndre Hopkins this week. Bottling up as much as one can bottle up DeAndre Hopkins. One of those 5 catches, 66-yard games. But I could just see Aaron Donald just giving Kyler Murray all kinds of trouble. And with a guy that small, even though he's super athletic, I think a guy that small, he's going to have trouble against the interior of that D-line. And I think that the Rams win probably this game pretty convincingly.
See, here's my problem, too. Normally, I would take Arizona in the points as a home dog all day.
Yeah.
But something's not right with Kyler Murray. I don't know if he's injured, what's going on. He just doesn't look right. He's not running as much as he should. Maybe his shoulder's still bothering him from the Buffalo game. I don't know what it is, but I just can't. I can't bet him right. If anything, I stay away from this game.
See, I'm not. I actually think the Rams win 34-21. That's my prediction for that game. I think the Rams beat them in a rout. I think there is something wrong with Arizona. I think they're a dangerous team next year if they have a good offseason. But that is I don't know. To me, that's probably one of my biggest locks of the week. I think that the Rams absolutely steamroll Arizona this week.
Nice. All right, let's get to a few of mine here. I'm going to take, call me crazy, but the Bengals plus 11.5 at Miami. It's too many points.
Not a bad pat. Dude, that's not a bad pat. I don't
too
think
many. Miami is the new darling. Everybody loves Miami. The public wants to bet Miami. The public has been getting their asses kicked the last few weeks. Give me Cincinnati. Give me the points all day. Worst case, that's a backdoor cover written all over it. They could be down by 17 and score a touchdown right at the end. That's meaningless.
Right, and tell me how the Dolphins are much different than the Giants. They're definitely a little bit more talented, but Cincinnati gave the Giants kind of all they can handle. They played way outside of themselves, and I think that Brandon Allen didn't make a ton of bad throws in that game. He wasn't exactly legging the defense up, and I think Miami's defense is better than the Giants' defense. But I actually agree with you. I think that those are just too many points, and I think Cincinnati can be a little frisky. I think Cincinnati has a couple quality wins. Granted, it's with Joe Burrow, but they did beat the Titans. The Titans are a good team, man.
Yeah,
and
this might be a dog week for me because the next one I'm taking the Jags plus 9.5 at the Vikings.
Is this in Minnesota?
It is in Minnesota, but no fans. Yeah, remember, home field means nothing this year. I think home field teams either are 500 or have a losing record this year.
Yeah.
That means squat. And 9.5. Jacksonville's feisty as hell. We saw that against Cleveland. Jacksonville just has no quit in them. All these guys are playing for a job.
Yeah, that's very true. And Robinson's a really, really good player.
And
I thought Philip Lindsay's the best undrafted free agent running back I've ever seen, but I think Robinson's way better. I think Robinson's going to be an 8-year really good player guy. I think that guy is special. Yeah,
and let's think about it this way, too. The Vikings lost to my Cowboys. They're not a good team.
Good point.
Unless Dalvin Cook is just cooking and going crazy, but I still don't think they're 9.5 points better. I'll take a backdoor cover on that all day.
I will tell you, I don't know if I've loved LSU receiver this much since Odell Beckham, but I love Justin Jefferson.
Oh, my God, kid's a stud.
That guy's freaking absurd. He's so good. And I think Thielen, who missed last week's game, also good. And hey, Don Beebe, Chad Beebe's son, had a game-winning touchdown against the Panthers.
Yeah, so, the only problem is they got Kirk Cousins throwing on the ball. And this game is at 1 o'clock, so that is in Cousins' window.
Okay, so if you're the Vikings, right, you have to trade up. They might not be able to get Lawrence or even Fields, but you have to trade up for one of the other quarterbacks, right? You have to get a young quarterback because that team, man, they just keep giving Kirk Cousins money. It's like
Yep.
that old Matthew McConaughey thing on Family Guy. I was like, I know, man. They just keep giving me money, and I just keep doing these horrible movies, man. That's them. Like that is them with Kirk Cousins. They're just like, we just gonna keep giving them money and watching them go be real average.
And you know who they could trade up for? And I've watched a ton of this guy at BYU, Zach Wilson. Kid's got great footwork, mobile, got a cannon of an arm, and nobody really talks about him.
Right.
I think he's going to kill it at the combine, though, and he's going to move up to be like the third quarterback taken. But if you want to trade up to go get somebody.
What's crazy is that they were talking about when the Vikings started out really slow, they're talking about firing Mike Zimmer. I'm like, are you high? Aaron Rodgers was like, good, fire him. That's great news for me. Like Aaron Rodgers was like, Mike Zimmer is an excellent coach. I think the Vikings would be absurd to fire that guy. They don't have a coaching problem. They have a personnel problem. And
I hate when like fans talk about this stuff too. They're like, "Oh, just fire the coach, get rid of him." I'm like, "Okay, cool, you fired him. Who are you bringing in?"
Do you have a better head coaching option than Mike Zimmer?
No.
Do you? Like, there's not a better head coach on the open market right now than Mike Zimmer. There might be a coordinator who's like, I think what everybody's obsessed with is trying to get another Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan, and it's just those guys are unicorns, right?
No.
And it's like they tried to do it with Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur is not a good head coach. Zach Taylor is not that good of a head coach. I think what makes the other two special is culture. And I don't know if a lot of guys are good at that. And I think Mike Zimmer, who's been in the NFL for a long time, he knows how to coach a team. And I think I would never get rid of that guy. I think Mike Zimmer is a phenomenal coach. And I think that Vikings fans are absolutely high if they think that they're a legitimate playoff team next year if they have another good offseason. I think Rick Spielman's a good general manager. I don't know what Kirk Cousins has on him to keep getting $30 million a year, but more power to Kirk Cousins, I guess. All right, what's your team, buddy?
Real quick on Cousins, here's the bad news. He's not a free agent until 2023.
Unbelievable.
Wow. His base salary in 21 is $21 million. His base salary in 22 is $35 million.
Oh my God. Is that his dead cap?
He's got a cap hit of $31 million in 21, $45 million in 22.
Oh my God.
I mean, they can't cut him in 22. It's dead cap of $10 million. But they have to cut him by the third league day of 2022, and then it becomes guaranteed.
Oh my God.
So they got him at least one more year, bare minimum. And 2022, they got to eat $10 million if they want to cut him.
Have you ever seen the movie Midnight Run with Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin?
A long time ago.
Okay. That's exactly like if you're a Vikings fan, you are Robert De Niro and you're just stuck to the world's most annoying human being. That's terrible.
And then too, like, do you draft a quarterback over the Vikings? Because now it's like we see these quarterbacks just get thrown in right from the beginning and start that rookie deal clock. You don't want to burn a year of it, like basically Green Bay did.
Oh, God, that's another thing. Green Bay should just fire themselves because I know they don't have an owner. So if I'm the fans,
you think they couldn't use like a pass rusher on that defense right now that they could have drafted? I mean, Rodgers basically has to throw for 350 and 5 touchdowns every game, or they're going to lose.
Or Jordan Jefferson, or Justin Jefferson, or CeeDee Lamb, or I don't know any of the other good wide receivers. Brandon Ayuk, he was there. They could have had Brandon Ayuk. I mean, they could have traded for. They didn't want to give up Will Fuller. They kind of dodged a bullet with Will Fuller, but they didn't know this at the time. They should have. They could have gotten Will Fuller.
Well, and I get too that previously this worked for them. Like, okay, we're going to draft Aaron Rodgers, and he will be Favre's understudy. But the NFL has changed completely now. Back then, you didn't have these rookie quarterback deals.
No.
Like now, you get that 4-year window, and you just go all in on a team.
Ooh, quick trivia question: Who is the last quarterback to get the absurd rookie deal, the first overall pick?
Was it Sam Bradford?
It is. Good job.
Hey-o. Dude, that guy made like $100 million in his career for basically nothing. Like, what did he do? What are his career stats? Not great.
I think he made like something a little under $1 million per touchdown pass for his career, which is funny.
God.
All right, last game.
Last game. Let's see what sticks out to me here. You know what? I took 2 dogs. I may as well take a favorite. I'm just going to take the Patriots -1 against the Chargers. Just show me. Look at it this way. You got Bill Belichick versus Anthony Lynn. Who do I trust more? It's simple. Belichick.
Dude,
I don't trust Anthony Lynn walking my dogs down the road. He would get lost. And I live in the suburbs.
What he would do is he'd have him run in the middle of traffic.
If you walk long enough in my neighborhood, even if you get lost, eventually you come back to my street. It's one big circle.
Yeah.
And Anthony Lynn would find a way to end up on the highway. He'd end up on 690 with my dogs.
Dude, I have never seen a coach run a draw play at the end of a game while trying to score a touchdown from like 4 yards away. I was perplexed. I was beyond perplexed. I'm like,
this is after gifted a Hail Mary that you shouldn't have completed.
And how much time did he run off on that punt? Like, what the hell is happening?
Well, and then they do a QB sneak where the entire offensive line is in pass protection. What is happening? It's like coaching Pee-wee players. Like
Justin
nobody knows
Herbert,
what's going on.
We talked about this last week, but Justin Herbert not only does deserve better fans, he deserves a better coach. That guy is not appreciated by the people that like the team, and that's like 6 people. And then like Anthony Lynn is just a bad head coach. He's probably a good offensive coordinator, and I loved him on Hard Knocks. I was like, you know what? Wish that guy was my dad. I wish that guy was my uncle.
You know, it's funny. Speaking of the Chargers, before we got on tonight, I saw I'll have to find it again on Twitter. I saw this meme, and it was talking about each fan base and what player they hate the most from their rival. So for the Eagles, it's Dak Prescott. For the Cowboys, it's Carson Wentz. Chargers was blank.
That's hilarious.
It just tells you everything you need to know about the Chargers. Like the fact that they don't have anybody to hate because they just don't even actually have fans. Like, dude, this goes back years ago, firing Marty Schottenheimer, being 14-2.
14-2.
You waste so much goddamn talent. You wasted Drew Brees. You wasted Phillip Rivers. You wasted Tomlinson, one of the greatest running backs of all time. You couldn't even get him to a Super Bowl.
Antonio Gates.
Yes.
They wasted Antonio Gates. I mean,
Junior Seau.
Yeah. I mean,
What we got? Lights out guy, the D end, ended up at the Bills at the end of his career. Why can't I think of his name?
Marcellus Wiley.
No. The guy who used to do the lights out thing, the linebacker.
Oh, Sean Merriman.
Yes, Merriman. Wasted so much goddamn talent.
Young Rodney Harrison, they really have, and I mean, I think the most absurd one is probably LaDainian Tomlinson, who's. I think he's more known for fantasy football than he is actual football. But I think his MVP year, I don't know if I've seen many running backs better than that. I think that guy was an absolute unicorn back in the day too. So, yeah, man.
Can you imagine if you put Tomlinson with Belichick or with Andy Reid? Holy shit.
Imagine putting Justin Herbert with Andy Reid. I mean, we're kind of seeing it with Patrick Mahomes and the absolute absurd things that he does, but I just feel like he just deserves. Kansas City Chiefs fans are good fans, right? They deserve Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
The Chargers don't.
Oh, they had some lean years. People forget. They had very lean years.
They had the first overall pick and probably one of the worst drafts of all time. I think it was the 2013 draft. They took Eric Fisher, a left tackle, first. That was the EJ Manuel draft. It was Christian Ponder was the year before. It was a bad draft. One
of their biggest highlights as a fan base, unless you go all the way back to Super Bowl III, was getting an end of his career, Joe Montana, for a playoff game. That was their best moment.
Yeah, that is crazy. This guy on TV's ugly. Sorry, it threw me off. But yeah. So anyway, anything else, or you want to go into our closing rants?
No, we can go in the close.
All right, you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
You go ahead.
Okay. So, as previously discussed last week, I love movies. And, with Christmas coming up, there's a lot of movies, Christmas related that I really love. My favorite Christmas movie of all time is probably this movie. It came out in 2003. I saw it on a date actually in high school. And maybe this is my first problem by announcing this before I showed my girlfriend, now my wife and mother of my child, this movie. So there's a movie called Love Actually. It stars Hugh Grant. Listen, I love this movie. So
I'm sure you do.
It's a bunch of stories told in one movie, and they're all sort of interconnected by, not in an absurd way, but it's just kind of like, all these people know each other, whatever. That movie makes me laugh. It makes me cry. It depresses me. I absolutely adore this movie, right? And I showed my wife this. I'm not a crier. My daughters made me cry a little bit, just because kids will do that to you. But I'm not a crier when it comes to movies or getting overly emotional about stuff. But this movie, literally, I had tears in my eyes. I'm like, I love this movie. I feel so great right now. I just want to hug everybody. And then I asked my wife, I was like, did you love it as much as I did? Thinking this is going to change your life. She was like, that was okay. Just completely just completely shit on it. And I'm like, I don't know if I can be in this relationship anymore. I'm crestfallen. Every time I think about it, I just get upset. I love this movie to death. And she just was like, man, it was all right. And she just brushed it off like it was another movie. I was like, you don't understand. This is a religious experience for me. You don't understand what this movie means. And just
I get that, man.
Like, was just meh. Like, oh, wonderful. I can't even describe the devastation.
Yeah. No, I completely understand because early on in our relationship, my fiance, I'm 35. She's 7 years younger than me. She's 28. So she didn't grow up with Back to the Future, which is my hands down all-time favorite movie, the perfect movie, like number one all time.
You don't grow up with Back to the Future. It's just you see Back to the Future.
Yeah, but somehow, because she's younger, it just kind of like missed her wheelhouse. Like, I get it. There's certain things that, like, the age difference, like it's more in my area, not in hers. Like, it happens. Right. So we sit down and I'm like, you got to watch this movie. And like, I'm basically saying to her, I'm like, the future of our relationship depends on how you feel about this movie. Like, if this does not go well, then I don't think we're right for each other. And thankfully, she loved it. Like, she was like, that was an awesome movie. So I was like, we might call it quits right here. I don't see a future.
Right. Thank God. I will say, I'm a huge movie fan. I watch movies that nobody's heard of. I watch movies like nonstop. I only bring up, more popular movies on like these shows and when I talk to people that don't love movies as much as me because I don't want to bore anybody with There Will Be Bloods of the World, which is like one of my 3 favorite movies of all time. And it's about oil in the turn of the century, 1800s going into 1900s, turn of the century oil baron. But it's an absolute masterpiece. Like, I watched this movie over the weekend called The Hunt, which is kind of is really entertaining actually. But yeah, so I will say Back to the Future is maybe not my favorite movie of all time, but it is a perfect movie. And there is a distinction between the two because I love the movie Con Air. Absolutely not a perfect movie. There's so many goddamn plot holes in that movie. Yeah. And don't get me started on Face Off. I don't understand how you cut the guy's hair when he doesn't have a face with the guy smoking a cigarette in the lips. I don't understand that, but whatever. But I love Nick Cage. He's delightfully absurd. But I will say, like, Back to the Future, that is one of those movies where you cannot make it better. It's perfect how it is. Dude, even the name Biff. Is there a better villain name than Biff? Biff is perfect name.
I love the different stages of Biff, too. So you get, 1950s Biff. You get future Biff. You get alternate future Biff.
I do love that the future takes place in 2015. That makes me laugh. Yeah. It's like the movie Time Cop with Jean-Claude Van Damme. It came out in 1994, and in the future, where you can travel through time and arrest people, 2004. I think you guys couldn't put that any further in the future than 10 years in the future. You really think the technology, there's going to be time travel in 10 years? It's like, we still don't even have moving sidewalks or flying cars yet.
I know. Jetsons lied to us. Although they did have Zoom long before anybody thought of Zoom.
They did in the 20s. That was at the World's Fair.
Yeah.
They had video phones and it freaked people out. They didn't want them. But I don't know. Anyway, end of rant. My wife hated a movie that I absolutely adore. And it bequeathed me to see her again after that, I'll tell you.
Bequeathed.
Yeah.
Oh. So I got 2 things. My first one is a quick one, is a what to watch for.
Yep.
This weekend, WWE Network, NXT War Games, the Undisputed Era goes up against Pat McAfee and the Kings of NXT. Now, I don't know if I think you saw highlights of it. McAfee was amazing in his first match.
Great.
This guy took to pro wrestling like nobody I've ever seen since like Kurt Angle. Like the athleticism, his charisma and his promos are amazing. He has managed to get the wrestling community to hate him like no one I've ever seen before. Like the venom that spewed at him from the internet wrestling community on Twitter is amazing to watch.
Interesting.
It generates all this heel heat, and it's going to be must see. So War Games, they take two wrestling rings and they surround it with one giant steel cage. Yep. And it's 4-on-4, 2 teams of 4. And McAfee is going to do a flip off the top of the cage. It's going to be amazing to see.
He's so athletic, dude. I couldn't believe that when you sent me that video. I'm not a wrestling guy.
When he landed that backflip off the top ropes, dude, my knees would explode. My knees ate watching it.
And he's a guy with bad knees. I just thought that was super impressive. He's had like multiple surgeries. He was actually rumored to be the Bears kicker. Like he was like flying to go try out to be their field goal kicker, and his knee swelled up on the plane ride there, and he actually turned down the workout because his knee ballooned up. So that's a guy with a bad knee, and what he did in that was really impressive.
Yeah, and then my feel good story of the week: Syracuse women's basketball. and I'm going to butcher her name. I've tried it so many times. Tiana Maganakia, our point guard, made her triumphant return after beating breast cancer after getting a double mastectomy. Had to take all last year off. First game back, few butterflies. Led all scorers, 16 points, 7 boards, 3 assists.
Nice.
They win over Stony Brook.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, and Syracuse is
How
currently
young is
ranked
she?
23rd. What's that?
How young is she?
I want to say she's 22. This is her 5th year. She's the 5th-year senior.
Young.
Yeah, I mean, and there's talk she's going to be the number 1 pick in the WNBA. Like, she is phenomenal.
Jesus.
She's in. If you get the chance, I'll remind you when their game's on. You got to see her play. She
I'll
is
definitely watch it.
so much fun, and she's Aussie too, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So hearing her the post game interviews is just hilarious to me. There's something about that Aussie accent that I've always loved.
Oh man, I was in Iraq with an Australian guy. He was my favorite person ever. Squadron leader Jeeves. Yes, well, just like Jeeves, as in like Ask Jeeves.
Yeah, they have a
Every
great
morning, Cade. Love that guy.
Yeah, but SU's ranked number 23. They have one of the best recruiting classes in the nation. A couple of stud freshmen. Like, they're a team that's Final Four, even national championship bound. They're going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, let me know when they're on because I'll watch it with my little one. My daughter likes basketball a lot. We have a hoop in the driveway and she plays a lot, so it'll be fun to have her watch. Girls play basketball, and maybe I'll get her inspired a little bit to want to play basketball because she's for a little kid.
Definitely, and it pains me too that she makes her triumphant return and we can't have fans in the stands. A couple of years ago, they try to break the women's attendance record. I think it's like 10 or 12,000.
Yeah,
you get Tiana back after beating cancer, like that place should be packed.
Oh yeah, that would be like 30,000. Yeah, that'd be a ton. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so
that's a great feel good story.
Yeah, that's all I really got.
All right, so just a reminder to follow us at Under the Hoodies on Twitter, at Cuse Waterboy, at Bill Kegel, and at Backsports Page. Also go to backsportspage.com. I will be live blogging I'm covering the Bills for the website, but I'll be live blogging during most of their games. I'll try to stay up for some of the night games, but at my advanced age, it's very difficult for me. So I
live blog the games anyways on my Twitter, and
follow Tony because Tony will do a lot of that. Tony, if you want on your Twitter, start giving out some of your picks because you're more of a gambler than I am. Like I understand it, but I'm so bad at it that I think I always joke that a fat Italian guy in North Jersey would own my daughter and my house if I really got into gambling. So I try to avoid it as much as I can. But yeah, definitely follow Tony on Twitter. If nothing else, for some local political commentary in Syracuse, which is always a good time.
Yep. Speak my mind, man.
Yeah, that's what's
I am.
So
the way I'm on Twitter is the way I am in real life.
Exactly. So that's it. I'm Bill. That's Tony. And last thought, by the way. I was listening to a podcast with Anthony Fauci and Bill Gates, and Rashida Jones, who played Karen on The Office. Really smart girl. Her dad is Quincy Jones, probably the inventor of most modern music. But anyway, so they were referring to themselves as Bill and Tony. And what I realized that they are now we are now the smartest people doing a podcast named Bill and Tony. They're second.
I'll take it.
Yeah, no, I thought that was funny. They were like, "Oh, Bill, okay, Tony." I'm like, we're so much dumber than them. It's fucking absurd. So I thought it was hilarious. But
yeah, but we've got better beards. That's
true. Look at this thing. This thing is lush, dude. This looks like my beard. If it was a forest, would be definitely like rainforest level. It's wonderful.
Yep.
So, all right, buddy. See ya.
Hi, man. Have a good one.